Hey guys, and welcome back to another BRM5 video. Today we'll be covering the second part of which guns I think are worth buying as a solo. We're going to start in the snipers class, and then we're going to go down to the shotguns. This time for this video, I'm going to try a different format. I will be introducing the class first, list the pros and cons of that class, and then quickly dive into each weapon itself. And with that, let's get straight into the video. Starting us off, we have the sniper rifles, known for their high damage to the head and torso, having long range, and also a high velocity. These things are great for long range combat, not so much for mid and close range. And then there's the major limiting factor, which is its ammo. Even though I want to go through every single weapon in this class, overall this class is not worth it, as you don't ever have enough ammo to full clear most locations, especially late game locations. Also, for the cost of even the base sniper, the M24, which I'm holding right now, it is 3.6k. You can buy so many other assault rifles that could basically fit the bill. For example, you could just buy the OG1 or the OG3 or one of the burst rifles and still have sufficient range. Unless you're, of course, cross-map sniping, in which case then sure, go for it. But overall, the snipers are not a good choice because of their cost, low rate of fire due to, being bolt action and all, and not having enough ammo to clear any of the major locations, or most of the major locations. Next up, we have the Carbines, which are just a sub-variant of the assault rifle, boasting lower range but higher rate of fire. And starting us off, we have the M4A1, a base cost of 1.2 thousand. This thing is good for mid to long range combat, as it starts dropping quite a bit when you get to the higher ranges. It is also my personal favorite in all the carbines, as it's basically just an M16A2 or A4, just being full auto instead. I definitely would recommend using this rifle, as it's relatively cheap and is also a good alternative over the AK-74 if you want a higher fire rate weapon. And it also does boast 40 round mags as well. But yeah, that's all for the M4A1. Let's move on to the next weapon. Next up, we have the AKS-74, which is a goddamn tongue twister for my poor brain. But this is just basically, of course, a sub-variant of the AK-74. It is significantly worse at all ranges, only really being good at close range and being okay at mid. Bursts are, of course, basically mandatory, as its 40 round mag gets used up quite quickly, especially as it has higher rate of fire because of it being a carbine at 720. And also, it also fails to one-shot headshot at longer ranges, which isn't ideal. So for the same cost as the M4A1, I don't recommend getting this, as you're better off getting the M4A1. Even if it is lower magazine sized by 5, it's still more worth than getting the AK-74 carbine version. Next up, we have the SIG 552. This thing has a base cost of 4k. It's good at mid to long range combat. Burst firing is recommended, as it only has a 30 round mag. Fire rate of 700. Somehow it's one of the guns that isn't a subclass of any of the assault rifles. as there is no other SIG gun in the game, as far as I know. I don't recommend this gun as well. At range, it can't one-shot headshot. And the fact that its price tag is so high at 4K for a carbine, you're better off just buying, as I mentioned earlier, any of the assault rifles instead. Next up is the MK18. Honestly, I'll cut this pretty short. It's basically just the M4A1 with higher fire rate and lower range. So, it can't one-tap headshot at higher ranges. And you have to fire semi because of the high fire rate it has. Topping out at a god dang 820. That's legit probably the highest, besides like the ASVAL. So yeah, in short, don't get this gun, especially because it's just honestly a downgrade from the M4A1. Unless of course you're playing PvP, in which case, have fun. And it also costs 4.1 thousand. Yeah, that's quite expensive. Go get a Humvee or something. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the MK18. On to the next weapon. Next up, we have the SR3M, which is the carbine version of the ASVAL. I think you know where this is going, guys. Boasting a base cost of 4,450, and having a 30-round mag, which you have to fire semi because of its fire rate being 900, for God's sake. This thing's only really good at close range. What a shocker. Not only that, it's forced to only have 1x scopes because of how small its top rail is. So basically, this thing is just a very, very, very ASVAL, if the ASVAL wasn't bad enough, with its only upside being that it has a 30-round mag. So yeah, it's definitely not worth it if it's even more expensive than the freaking MK18. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the SR3M. On to the next weapon. Next up, we have the HK416, otherwise known as the RF416A5 in game. This one is a hard one for me to judge, as its base cost is 11K. However, it is good at all ranges. And of course, you have to watch your ammo with this thing, as you only have a 30-round mag, and its fire rate is a whopping 850. As you can see. So, this is basically just a more expensive version of the M4A1. However, it is lighter. It has more fire rate. So, I honestly don't know if I can recommend this. I used this thing for a long time, but if we're just looking price-wise, you're better off getting an M4A1. Despite this thing being lighter, that's the only benefit. Because it only has 30-round mags, and its fire rate means that it's going to run out of ammo extremely quickly. So sadly, I really can't justify recommending this thing, as even though it's a good rifle, its cost outweighs its benefits. And yeah, that's my thoughts on the HK416, otherwise known as the RF416A5. We will now be headed over to the DMRs. So next class, we have the DMRs, boasting the same stats as sniper rifles, however being semi-auto and having magazines. honestly makes me recommend the DMRs more than the sniper rifles if you're going to go sniping. And of course, starting us off, we have the SVD-S, boasting a base cost of 7.9, being good long range and mid range due to its fire rate of 227. Firing in semi is always recommended with DMRs as the recoil is relatively high. However, for an entry-level weapon, it isn't the greatest compared to all its other brethren. As if you just save up a bit more, an extra 600, you can get the M110, which is a basic overall upgrade to this rifle. That's my thoughts on the SVD-S. And let's head on to the next rifle. Next up, we have the M1010, my personal most recommended rifle, or DMR, boasting a base cost of 8.5, being effective at all ranges due to its higher fire rate than the SVD-S at 380, also boasting the highest in its class. This thing is a goddamn powerhouse as well, because having such a high fire rate makes it able to also fight in close quarters combat, despite it being a designated marksman rifle. Not to mention, it gets 20 round E-mags off the bat, and the fact that it has great reserves and medium recoil compared to all the other DMRs, I wholeheartedly recommend this rifle. Definitely pick it up if you want to go sniping instead of a sniper rifle, honestly. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the M1010. Get it if you can, because holy I love this rifle. Next up, we have the SVU, otherwise known as the OTS, in-game, boasting a base cost of 15k. This, to me, is the Russian version of the M1010. However, despite it being good at all ranges and having a decent fire rate, at 333, its high recoil and the fact that it only gets its 20 round mags at 4 stars makes it, first of all, way too expensive. Second of all, stuck at 10 mags like the SVD for quite some time. I can't recommend this rifle, sadly, as it also used to be full auto, but then they removed that, which was honestly the driving point for getting this rifle in the first place. It's still good, of course, it's just that ain't worth the price. So yeah, that concludes the DMRs. We will be heading over to the SMGs now. For the next class, we have SMGs, the relatively quick-firing weapons with high fire rates. And starting us off, we have the PP2000, starting out at a 1.4K. This thing's honestly only good at close range, as you can see. It falls off at mid and long range combat. However, it does boast a 44 round mag, coupled by the fact that it's only 600 RPM, means that you can full auto this up close, but I would recommend shooting single at long ranges in order to range your shots. However, despite its cheap cost and it following a lot of the bills of the weapons I like, the main problem stems from its range. So if you're going for like close quarters combat, like more close quarters combat, I would recommend it. But otherwise, I just recommend you get a rifle, as those are usually more effective at all ranges anyway. But yeah, that's all for the PP2000. On to the next SMG. Next up, we have the UMP, boasting a base cost of 1.7. Its effectiveness is around close and somewhat mid-range. As you can see, it's definitely recommended to fire single, as its lower magazine size of 25 hinders it quite a bit, and its overall ammo reserves cripple it as well. Despite it having better recoil and having the ability to add a grip compared to the PP2000, I can't recommend it due to its magazine size and max ammo, as you run dry pretty quickly. Especially in these situations where you're panicking a lot, so you're spraying a lot, you can definitely wonder where all your bullets have gone after a bit. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the UMP. Let's head over to the next SMG. Next up, we have the MP5, boasting a base cost of 2.1k. This thing is good at both close and mid-range, and it's recommended to shoot semi and then spam at, or shoot semi at range and then spam up close. With a fire rate of 800, 30 round mags, and having very low recoil, or visible recoil when aiming down scopes, I do recommend this SMG. It covers all the bases of the PP2000, having a high magazine size, or a higher magazine size, I guess, because it at least has a basic rifle magazine. And the fact that it's that it has higher range than both the UMP and the PP2000 definitely make it a better choice than them, with it being only about 7,000 or 700 more than the PP2000 and 500 more for the UMP. It's definitely a good blend between the two, covering all the pros of the two. However, its main concern is ammo, due to its fire rate and okay amount of reserves. So yeah, that's all for the MP5. Next SMG. Next up, we have the P90, boasting a base cost of 1.9. This thing is good at close to mid-range. Same shooting recommendation as the other two, and having a mag size of 50 and a fire rate of 980 and low recoil. I honestly cannot recommend this weapon, sadly. Reason being is that, well, its magazine size and its high rate of fire means you're burning through ammo extremely quickly. And also there's the fact you can't one-tap headshot, which I'll show you right now. That was a headshot. That was a headshot. They're finally dead. Yeah, you can't even one-tap headshot with this thing, which is fine if you weren't playing PvE. Yeah, I can't recommend this thing. Next weapon. Next up, and finally for the SMGs, we have the MP7, going for a base cost of 2.4. This thing is good at close and mid-range. However, with a 40 round mag and 950 RPM, this follows the same problem as the P90, in that it burns its mags way too fast, and you can't even one-tap headshot, like the P90, which in my case, ruins it, as I don't want a two-shot headshot, thank you, because that's quite annoying. For a person who fails to shoot headshots in the first place 90% of the time, it's not ideal to have to two-shot headshot, which is why I hate the pistol nerf. Anyways, enough ranting aside, we'll be going to the last class of weapons right now, which is the shotguns. Next up, we have the shotgun class, and you know what? Who am I kidding? Who is going to use a shotgun as a solo? These things only pose well at close range, and even the base shotgun here, this one here, you have to manually reload this thing. Yeah, it's semi and all, but your range is crap, and you can't even freaking interrupt the reload. So if you're using a shotgun as a solo, what are you doing? You use your pistol more than your shotgun. That's depressing. Anyways, rant aside, that's pretty much the end of this video, because who in their right mind is going to use a shotgun as a solo? I'm going to get proven wrong, I swear. But besides that, yeah, that brings us to the end of this video. I did mention I would link a spreadsheet, which I hopefully have in the description or somewhere in the comments. The next video is going to be a bit of public open world experience, and also why I refuse to play open world public. Yeah, I'm just feeding into that again. But yeah, that's it. And I'll see you guys next time.